tell you, this is just 1-2 minute note. So I was inducted as a research scholar to do this, and then 3 of us wrote a paper. Okay, so this paper bringing out this important contribution of Nilakantha, we were so fascinated. We wrote a paper. We wanted to publicize this through a journal called Current Science in India. That journal editor, what he did was, he sent this paper for referring to some scholar here in US. That scholar said, no, these people are not trying to present the reality. So they have misunderstood what is stated by Nilakantha. This is what he said. So then this referee report came. So this is his own handwriting, okay. So he is a very senior scholar who did not use computers. So he was just writing. See, but Nilakantha has conceived of its terms traditional cosmology. Okay. So the statement Nabu Kabali Kriyate, that is not something which was convincing him. So Nilakantha has only traditional cosmology. Okay. In which planets, including the inferior planets, all circle around the Earth. Understand? So he categorically states Nabu Kabali Kriyate. But this man says this is what it is. I hope my explanation is both clear and convincing. We wrote saying that no, it is not convincing. So you have to convince yourself. So this happened, see, he writes only this way, letter communication. And then we have to write, so this took almost 2-3 months, 4-5 months. Then once again, after that he says, I apologize for being so tardy in responding to your letter 2 months ago. Okay? Rather hectic. So then what does he say? We seem to be getting into a situation of mutual incommunicability. The authors of the heliocentric paper claim that I did not respond to their theory, while I must now claim that they did not understand my criticism. So the journal editor says that this person is correct, whereas we are wrong. So he said we are not going to publish. So then we could have gone elsewhere, but then we decided that we will not leave this case. So we had to write to all the editorial board members, and then at least one sane man was there who was very influential in the editorial board. And he said, no, see, what they are saying is correct, and therefore you have to publish. Even then the editor publishes with a note at the top saying that the referee was not convinced, but even then we decided to publish. So this is how it happened, okay? So for everything, that is what people say, we want a stamp from those who are not. Okay, is there something which is worthwhile that is achieved by looking at this text? I would say yes. A study of historical and cultural perspective need not necessarily help solving current problems, okay, or it need not necessarily say that we have achieved much accuracy, but it is quite fascinating in itself. Besides being challenging, yes, it was, I must say, that it was quite challenging to enter into them, understand their terminology, but it is quite fascinating and intellectually rewarding. See, with the evolution of time, the language may change, the problems may change, style of presentation may change, mathematical tools employed may change, the accuracy with which we can do can also change. But this does not make the past completely obsolete or prototypical. So for instance, there is a much larger understanding of how things are, whether these models are to be considered as a real thing, okay, which fits the nature. In fact, there is nothing which can really fit the nature, irrespective of all the disciplines I'm saying. So you can only try to construct a model which can mimic to some extent. Okay, beyond that is not possible. Okay, so that larger understanding of the very nature of science seems to be there in the texts of Indian astronomers as well. I provided a glimpse of the astronomy. There are very interesting mathematical computations, for instance, Lagna, Adhimasa, Kshayamasa, etc. They are all very interesting things. Okay. So this, to some extent, has been handed over to us, fortunately, by a few scholars who try to transcribe the manuscripts, and some people have written some notes on that. See, there were a few extraordinary scholars last century who were well trained in modern mathematics, but they did work on their own interest. It has nothing to do with the support of the university or any other system. See, out of their passion, they were doing this. But such passion is something which is missing today. So bright minds have to get into this. Then only we will first of all have a comprehensive understanding of what has been done. See, even for that we need to work a lot more. And see, this is what I wanted to say. This heliocentric model somebody writes and the GPT presents to us. This mindless glorification that we had heliocentric, how can you say? Totally meaningless. That there is another thing that came. Somewhere else, once, another time, this ChatGPT said that Indians had gravitational theory. Okay, I'll show you. These are completely meaningless. Because some fellow writes like that. So it just grabs some from there. So they think that they are doing something, service to our nation. So this mindless glorification is going to be counterproductive. But equally counterproductive will be downright condemnation. So a proper assessment has to be done by careful study of the source work. See, by competent scholar. That is how we can move forward. Thank you. Namaste. There are one or two questions. Yes, please.
So I don't know if my question is relevant to your talk today. If it is not, please disregard it. Depending on where you live, the tithi could be different. For instance, in India, today, Wednesday, is Sankata Chaturthi.
Okay, I'll answer this. As such, tithi begins the moment you have an integral multiple of 12 degrees of moon separated from the sun. For the moment, let us take sun and the moon are in the same line of longitude. They are 0 degrees. The moon starts moving from that. Sun is also slowly moving. When the moon's lead over the sun is exactly 12, you say Prathama is over. 12 to 24, Tritiya is over. How do you compute? Let us leave for the moment. You have a mechanism to compute. Now, has it got anything to do with where you are? No. The beginning of the tithi and the end of the tithi has nothing to do with where the observer is. Having said that, how do you say that today is Tritiya, today is Tritiya, etc.? That has to do with the sunrise and the tithi at that moment. The sunrise keeps varying from place to place. So declaring that today, so we have to actually connect the tithi and the dina, vara. Okay? Vara, let us assume, is connected to the sunrise at a given location. That is how it is, right? So your Tuesday means the sun rises. You can say 12 o'clock, you can say 6 o'clock, whatever it is. But you have to have a connection between this and that. So when you do that, so how do you perform your Shraddha? So they too are different things. The tithi can end at 6 o'clock, it can end at 12 p.m., it can end at 1:48 p.m., it can end at 3:28 a.m. Now, you have to perform a ritual based on a tithi. You have to perform Krishnashtami based on tithi. So the way that people have done is again not uniform. So for certain rituals which have to be observed later in the afternoon, you will say the tithi has to be extended up to afternoon. For certain other rituals, for instance, Dwadashi, etc., the tithi has to be only in the morning. Okay? So depending upon the ritual that you have to perform, so they will say that this has to be ending at this moment, this has to be ending at this moment, this has to be up to this, then only you call that day as that tithi and you perform. See, our performances have to be during sunlight. Right? So this makes a lot of sense. So you have to perform your ritual not in the night. So you also try to associate a certain tithi. So therefore, since these two phenomena have to be integrated, so they, and the third aspect is, when is the ritual to be performed? Okay, all these things matter, and therefore it may vary. So you may have to perform some day there and some other day here. That is understood. Yes,
May
Soumya.
not, kind of related to this question, but probably not as related to physics. But we use Tithi and Nakshatra for different things.
Yes.
Why do we choose one over the other for various?
See, that I may not be able to answer, because this is some practice which they have adopted. See, for, in a sense, I would say, broadly I can say, for certain things, and again, it may not be uniform. That is why I am little uncertain about this. So Vaishnavas, they look for nakshatra for celebrating Janmashtami. So, okay, for we do not look for nakshatra. This Rohini and Ashtami sort of going together, they choose that. So this has to do partially with the tradition, and it could also be partially certain things. So if you want to celebrate, so that is in our tradition, we perform shraddhas based on tithi. We celebrate our birthdays based on nakshatra. Okay, so one can say that